Absolutely. Stay with me for just a moment, because these days sports stars attract as many column inches for what they do off the pitch as what they do on it.
And this week, England Rugby player Mike Tindall and teammates were criticised for being photographed out drinking in a bar on Sunday night.
So, can Mike Tindall be forgiven for having a bit of harmless fun, or should we demand more from our sportsmen, particularly if they happen to be married to a member of the royal family? Let's talk to PR consultant Richard Hillgrove, who's here with sports psychologist James Beale. Mike's also staying in for this one. Where do we start with this one? Richard, I mean, is this about PR? Is it about what it looks like? And is it because we've seen it that it matters, or does it matter because it's happening at all?
Right, well, that's quite confusing, but is a PR disaster, and you can't deny that. I think it's Martin Johnson's fault, to be honest. He took them all out for a wander around and didn't check where they were going, and he said they all ended up at this bar and didn't check it. And when you've got a team with the whole eyes of the world on them, you can't afford to be that laissez-faire, particularly because the British media like a scandal. And I know they're treating this like a football scandal, like a situation where someone might sleep with a prostitute and all that, and there's hardly anything there. It's completely beaten up. But it should have been sort of judged that he's now a member, Mike Tindall's now a member of the royal family. It should have been thought about by the PR people for the tour. And you can't put a foot out of place like that. Look at Pippa Middleton, just by association. Everyone's on her, and now everyone's on Mike Tindall. It's not Mike Tindall's fault. They should have had a drink in private, and it should have been monitored properly. Not with dwarf throwing and lesbian jelly wrestling. And I think they broke the rib of a dwarf. And it doesn't even matter about the CCTV, because you've got a situation where the security guard, he's been suspended. I think, well, it wasn't a security guard, it was a barman who leaked it to the world's media. If it wasn't CCTV, everyone's got smartphones.
So, James, help us with this one. What do you see? I mean, is it a part of... Are there traditions to do with certain sports? And rugby has this tradition of going out for a beer. And is that something that's sort of deemed to be useful in the sense of what they do?
It could come down to cultural norms like that, yeah. It could come down to the cultural norm of, in rugby, there's a lot of drinking involved. But I think also you need to look at the situation as they're in a pressurised situation. They need to let off steam. If they continue doing all the right things all the time, never going out, never doing anything aside from the rugby, then the press is going to build up, build up, build up. And I wonder if we're going to get the best out of them. Well, do you remember in the World Cup last year,
World Cup, yeah.
the England team were cocooned, effectively,
yep.
Very disciplined, very rigid sort of timetable, and afterwards a few players said, actually, that did affect our performance on the pitch. We couldn't let off steam. Now, you might argue what the England Rugby team have done is perhaps going a little bit too far, or it's a little bit naive anyway, at least. I think you said that. I think there's like appropriateness of letting off steam. But, I mean, I suppose there are two issues. There's the issue with Tindall with another lady, and there's the issue of the rugby team letting off steam. And for me, the letting off steam is a good thing. And we see that in other sports. So boxers train very, very hard, but each week they'll give themselves what they call a junk day. Well, they'll be able to do other things, and it might affect their training a little bit. But it was a speedway rider I was working with that also did a junk day that said to me something which summed it up for me, and it was, what he lost in the body, he made in the mind. So he felt a lot better about his sport, and he was calmer.
Mike?
He was...
I was just saying, do you think it's just a case of being more careful then? I mean, Chris Ashton's quoted this morning saying they are going to now be more careful because of this. He doesn't think they were doing anything wrong, and he did say that it's helped really release a lot of the tension that comes, as you were saying, Victoria, from maybe the boredom factor that they had at the Football World Cup. And it has, in fact, galvanised the team and even enhanced team spirit. They feel a lot more together now with the press against them.
You can't realistically suggest that the exercise of letting off steam, which a drink might have done, now resulting in front covers like this, with Zara pictured, his wife, inset pictured on the front cover, he finds quite relaxing. He's got calls from Britain, he's got probably the PR for Buckingham Palace all over him like a rash. That's not relaxing. Well, he's not letting off steam. You've actually created a stress situation.
It's almost like this us against them.
It's
And you
created...
could argue it the other way around, though. You could say that Mike Tindall is doing what he always has done.
Yes.
And he hasn't changed. So to try and radically change his lifestyle and the way he leads his life would confuse him even more.
This is a big wake-up call for him. He's now married to the royal family, a member of the royal family. Everything has changed, and he's had a rude awakening.
But you will notice in one of the newspapers that there is a friend of Zara Phillips saying the blonde woman with whom Mike Tindall is pictured on the CCTV cameras is a friend of the family and indeed was a guest at the wedding.
Well,
she's relaxed.
OK, but look, I mean, he thought it was private. It wasn't in a private environment. It was in a rowdy bar. People could have got it on smartphone or CCTV. He's picture grabbing, what the Mail calls groping, all that. I mean, it's not helpful. And it's not helpful for his wife to be inset pictured on the front cover of the Sun today.
Ultimately, if they win, then it all gets pretty quickly forgotten, doesn't it?
Yeah. Something like this can really bring the team together, actually. They can
have the
suddenly decide that what we're going to do is we're going to get behind.
I'm a New Zealander by birth, and you haven't seen the All Blacks behaving like this. So the road to winning the World Cup...
Or maybe they haven't been photographed behaving like this.
Well, exactly,
I mean,
my point. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a drink, but don't go wandering into random bars with dwarf throwing and lesbian jelly wrestling.
Which is worth saying that the England team said they weren't involved in. But there you go. Absolutely. Thank you all very much for your time this morning. Thank you. Let's see what the weather has in store for the weekend. Nina is there for us now.